Green podcast, roll another fat one, puffin' on that first class green. Take another puff, puff, hey, drifting the clouds up and away. Hear all about cannabis horticulture, plus cultivation, news and entertainment. Not forgetting Datty, the cute Dalmatian. Grow green is so amazing. We do massive dabs, not talking about the dance move. Grow green, put your lighters up, my dude. Hash joyful and it's so great. Smoke cannabis every single day. We do massive dabs, not talking about the dance move. Grow green, put your lighters up, my dude. Hash joyful, get that high grade. Smoke cannabis every single day, yo. Grow green, grow green, grow green, grow green.
Hello out there, this is CJ Stone.
And this is Eric Weed.
And this is the Grow Green Podcast, episode number 5.
What up out there, guys?
Shout outs to Green Thumb Garden Center for providing us with all of our growing needs.
To 3 Beans for dropping those fire nugs off.
Magniska High at CA2AK Genetics for dropping them seed pack. Right on. So let's go ahead and get into it. Today we're going to be discussing nutrients and stuff about them.
All the different kinds of nutrients. Not all of them, but your basics. How many different types of ways you can use the nutrients. It gets very confusing. We're not going to dive.
We're going to dive real deep off the deep end. So basically, nutrients are like food for the body. You need them to grow, to live, to be
Definitely,
healthy.
that's what they are to
you
a plant.
can't just put water in there and expect it a big, luscious mamba jamba.
Right. Beer, pizza, and eggs, basically, for your plant.
Right.
That's what I live off of. But anyway, yeah, we try to get our plants a little more healthy diet, and in order to do that, you have to, choose a different type of nutrient, and there's a lot of options out there. There's, first thing we could touch on is all the different types of feeding nutrients. Like, and when I say that, I shouldn't mean brand, but types. Like, they have a lot of one-part nutrients that are bottled. There's bottled nutrients. There's powdered nutrients. They have it just about in every single form.
What is it? Your basic nutrient, that's going to be when you walk into a grocery store and you see your part A, part B, all that, you're going to see numbers on there, and those numbers are going to be the macronutrients, and those are going to be nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So when you see that 1, 3, 6 number on the bottle, that stands for nitrogen, is going to be the first number. Phosphorus is the second number, and potassium is the third number.
Yeah, and so if you look at the part A's and part B's, you add those numbers together to get your overall formula if it was a 2-part. If it was a single part, so like I was saying, there's if it was a single part, the numbers that are on there would be the actual values of your NPK. But there's a lot of different part nutrients. There's 1 parts, 2 parts. There's 3-part nutrient. I like to use 2-part myself, but some of the beginning growers out there, there's options out there for stuff that you don't only have to buy literally 1 bottle for veg and 1 bottle for flower. There's even other powder nutrients out there that you could get away with just buying 1 thing. So it just depends on how much effort you want to put into it and how much of a diet you want to feed your plants. Like, you can build some bodybuilder plants, but you got to fill their diet.
You got to have a bodybuilder diet, and those motherfuckers eat. I seen it.
Yep, they eat a lot. In order to have that, you got to build up their stems with micronutrients, stuff like that. Additional micronutrients. Tell us what micronutrients are, CJ Stone.
Well, your micronutrients are going to be more like your multivitamin. They're not going to be your macro, your major, but you're still going to need them. You want like magnesium, your silica, calcium, bunch of other. They're the trace elements.
Right. And a plant can live off just the macronutrients, and it does okay. But a lot of times you'll see a deficiency, or it'll be lacking one thing or the other, and that's where you can come in with your micronutrients and supplement. You might be lacking CalMag, or you might need a little silica to stiffen up the stems or create some strength in the overall structure of the plant. You may also shorten it up a little bit to keep from stretching, but anyway, yeah. So there's 1 parts, 2 parts, 3 parts. There's all kinds of stuff out there. What do you use for your nutrients? Let's touch on some brands here. When you walk into the grocery store at your local shop, what would you expect to find? At every one across the United States, I would say.
Well, you'd find a bunch of different bottles. old school, you got your general organics, general hydroponics, your advanced nutrients. You got
Botanicare,
Botanicare, Ionic.
right? Ionic's been around forever. Well, so is General Hydro, but Ionic was actually the first nutrients that I ever used as a kid in my first legitimate grow. I'll cop up to it and say that when I was young, I guess I was probably like 13 or 14 the first time I tried to grow weed, like a little 50 watt.
Allegedly.
Yeah, well, no, my mom allowed me to do it, so it wasn't a big deal. I mean, we weren't the best kids, so I think most of our lights came from random buildings. 50 waters, little square box. You guys know what I'm talking about. Some of you guys at least been out there doing it for grip. So, but the first real nutrients I used were, and I say real, like legitimate nutrients specifically for growing, not necessarily cannabis, but edibles and not necessarily ornamentals. Do you know what I mean? Like something that you're going to ingest. That they plan on you feeding it to like a crop that you're going to ingest.
I'm going to eat this, not just have
Right.
to look at it. So
Which is
I'm not gonna put it-
weird because people feed Miracle Grow and stuff like that to your vegetables and stuff. But I really wouldn't use that for even my vegetables. So I have used that. I'll cop to using Miracle Grow before I actually used a real nutrient. But the first one I ever used was Ionic. The one I'm using right now is Emerald Harvest, and it's pretty cool. I'll touch on that. Not the Emerald Harvest, but I'll touch on the basics of what you have in most formulas. So you're going to have your base nutrients. Those are going to be your NPK values. And that's going to be usually in a 1-part or a 2-part or even a 3-part. And then you're going to have additives that are going to include stuff like silica, CalMag. You're going to need some, depending on what you're running. Some people like to run tea or like a tonic. That would be one of your other additive things. In flower, you would need a bloom booster, stuff like that. So it can really be very complicated. With some of the bigger companies like Advanced and General Hydro and even Botanicare, there's so many lines within their company. You look at their display and you're like, holy cow, there's a million bottles. And now, mind you, there's a lot of bottles with Advanced and some of the others, but the thing is that only part of them go together in a set. And you're basically going to get those 5 major things. You're going to have microbials, sugars, additives for like CalMag and silica, and like teas besides your base nutrients. You know what I mean? So just depends on the company how they decide to break it up into 50 bottles or 4 bottles. So when you go out there, don't necessarily read into the hype. Do some research. Check out what you got. Look at how much it's going to cost you per gallon to mix the nutrients with everything that they call for that you want to run, and figure out your budget. If you're on a budget, you might be better off running something simple like a 1-part. You know what I'm saying, CJ?
I know what you're saying. And don't get overwhelmed with everything. If you're just starting out and you're just in veg, all you really need is a basic 1-part, 2-part AB veg bottle nutrient. And that's going to get you pretty much through your veg stage until you're ready to flower if you're on a budget. And that's just 2 bottles, maybe even 1 if that's all you really want to mess with. You don't want to get too
you're going to
involved.
have to make a decision on what type of nutrients you're going to use. Either hybrid nutrients, synthetic nutrients, organic nutrients. You can check back in some of our previous podcasts. We touch on the differences of organic gardening and just what it uses overall. Organic's more natural ingredients.
If you really know your stuff, there's ways to get away with no-till gardening and just using straight raw ingredients,
Like drivers.
soils and
like down to earth
powders
stuff
and real blood meal and all that
creating
stuff.
your own super soils.
The bottles are just really an easy way to get all that in a nice, fancy, easy to use bottle. So you can just pour
Right.
it in.
You could take an inert media, something that doesn't have anything in it, and you can just add the bottled nutrients or the powdered nutrients that you mix into a liquid to that media, like cocoa block. You could absorb it, and it'll.
Amend it.
Well, no, like if you're gonna buy a block and you had to add water to it, expand it. Yeah, I guess that's the word. Huh? Anyway, you could add all your nutrients into your block, and it would be boom. All of a sudden, you have all those nutes in that specific media. Or if you're just adding it to a pot, that way you're able to just add and control exactly what you need as far as the formula goes.
Sounds good.
Oh man, I think I need to take a quick fat dab.
Yeah, I
What are
got
you
some
thinking?
rosin back there, some Alaska pineapple. I need
Ooh,
to just
Alaska pineapple, huh?
need to get inside of me, and then
Dude,
we'll.
we had that today. Second shout out to Beans for dropping off those toothless alien. What's the name of that company? Memphisito. I think it's Memphisito Toothless Alien Autos. Big shout out to you guys out there. That's some dank, man. I really like that. Shit buttered right away, but terp sauce.
Not
like
the
you could
biggest auto fan, but that was terpy.
Yeah, I'm not usually a huge auto fan, but it was really nice. I couldn't have looked at the bud and told the difference. I couldn't tell it was an auto, so I guess you really can't. Some super frosty, pretty amazing stuff out there. So, all right, well, I'm gonna go
Killing
take
it.
a dab.
Dab
and,
30.
We'll be right back.
Be right back.
It's CJ Stone and Eric Weed on the Green Grow Podcast.
Yo, welcome back. I'm feeling way better now.
Yes, I am. Let's get back into
That was a
it.
big dab. Oh man, whew, that was a monster. So I ended up taking a big fat dab of some lemon OG from Papa Bear Extracts, dropping the homie's name on there. Comes up from Cali every now and then, and has some good flame stuff going on. Some good meds.
Smelling good.
What do you got going on over there, CJ? What you checking out over there? Doing a little bit of reading on some nutrients here. I think we're going to go, speaking of nutrients, we're just talking about what I'm using. I'm running Emerald Harvest, and I think I'd like to tell you guys a little bit about it and maybe help explain some of those 5 types of nutrients there, the stuff that there is. What do you think, CJ?
Yeah. They got some good stuff.
You've been using Emerald Harvest a little bit, huh?
Yeah, I messed with it. I haven't seen anything bad. Works
What do you
pretty
think
good.
about how
Green.
hard it is to mix it?
It's pretty easy. As opposed to everything else, it's the same. Yeah.
As opposed to like any other.
Like advanced or fucking general organics. Oof. Rosin.
All right, well, so yeah. Anyway, so what I'm using their Cali Pro 2-part. So just imagine you could use this idea with any 2-part. So what I'm using is the A and B, and usually with the 2-part, you want to do it in order like the company tells you. A first, mix that into your water, and then come in with your B, mix that into your water. Every time you add the nutrient part that you're adding, you want to mix the water up. And that way, it doesn't interfere with each other. Sometimes when you mix them together, sometimes they cause lockout of each other, stuff like that. So you want to make sure, first of all, when you mix nutrients, do it all in order like it says. So the A part and the B part, they go A, B. Second thing is like, I think the thing you add second on this is Emerald Harvest usually. And so what that is that's going to be like they call it a plant tonic. Really what it is it has bag guano, it has, here, let me see, I think it has kelp, alfalfa meal, extract, and it also has compost teas in it. And I didn't know that until I got to reading a little bit deeper. And what it does is it really helps with the overall health of your plant, and it does a good job. You use that pretty much the whole time. So with any nutrient that you have, you can add in some sort of a health booster, like I don't know, what does Advanced have for a health booster? Revive, or like what does Advanced have when you were running it?
I don't know, man. Maybe one of their B52s or
Yeah,
something
like a
like
B52 vitamin. You can smell that in the Emerald Goddess too as well. It has some B vitamins. So basically, with everything you have those nutrients in there as well. So that's the way that works. And then you're going to move on, and you can use. First of all, I had CalMag, depending on your water and how much calcium and magnesium is in it.
I was going to ask, don't you first, shouldn't they pH their water if necessary? Is that something?
Yeah, first of all, I didn't start from the beginning. I was just trying to talk through when you're adding the nutrients themselves. So why don't you talk about that? You
I was just thinking in my head, obviously you're going to, well, maybe not obviously, but some tap water comes out at 8, and you don't want it at 8. You want it around 6 or so, depending on the medium. And in order to do that, you're going to have to use a little pH down. So a couple drops of that will get you there in order to find out how you're there, you got to need a pH strips or pH meter if you want to spend a little more money. So you got to use that first, get it down to 6 or so, whatever your number you want. Stir that up, and then add the CalMag if needed, if you're in cocoa or something.
Yeah, the CalMag would definitely come after after you pH for sure. So.
And then I'd go in with all the other shit.
That's the micronutrients, right?
Yeah.
Right?
I think so.
So then you'd come in with your part A
Macro-based,
and B,
micro,
right?
yep.
And then you'd come in with in this case, in this nutrient line, it would be Emerald Goddess.
I think it's King Cola, actually, and then Emerald Goddess, and then Honeycomb. Oh.
Maybe, maybe not. Is that how you've been mixing it?
Maybe I've been following the chart, so
really, I don't think it's a huge deal to mix the bloom booster
micros,
in before, yeah. But the way that the chart shows is it usually goes emerald after the A and the B, but you would add whatever you're going to add into your regular nutrients after your base. That's basically what it is.
Emerald, then King Cola, and then the Honeycomb.
Yeah, that's the way they have it written on theirs, but really all it matters is you come in with all of your base nutrients, like your A and B or your 1 part first, after your CalMag, in my opinion, after your pH. And then after those base nutrients, you can add those additives in.
Whatever order, just get them in there. And just don't mix them all in the same small container either, because it's gonna go bad kind of thing.
I'm not necessarily going to say 100% in whatever order. I think that if you're going to add silica in, there's certain things that you have to add in before other things. So, like, in the case where we're talking about...
Just follow your whatever nutrient lines.
Yeah, but on a general basis, we're just talking on a general basis, so I don't want to give the wrong idea. But in the case of the Emerald Harvest, you definitely go in with the A and B, and then you come in with the Emerald Goddess. Then you come in with either the Bloom Booster, and then you come in with the Honeycomb last, then the Root Boost.
And we're not trying to hug on Emerald Harvest. It's not Sax either. This is pretty much all nutrient lines. Pretty
totally.
Similar.
You could, when I say Emerald Harvest in your head, you could say General Organics or General Hydro. It doesn't really matter because I'm just trying to give you an idea. This is what I'm running, so it helps me relay to you how everything works. And it doesn't matter what nutrient you use. There's going to be a combination of what we're talking about in one of those bottles here and there in any way, because it's all basically the same thing. It's just different bottles. Different companies' ideas of a formula to change around to make things work in a different way.
When you pick up the Grow formula and then you pick up the Bloom formula, you'll notice the only differences is in Grow, the nitrogen number is going to be a lot higher, and the phosphorus and potassium is going to be a lot lower.
Yeah,
and then in the Bloom phase, the nitrogen is going to be a lot lower, and those other two are going to be a lot higher. And that's pretty much the only differences. Same shit's in them.
For the most part, yeah. There's only so many manufacturers of nutrient actually for synthetics and stuff. If you're using organics and you're doing your own, like we were talking about the super soil stuff, then that's a little different situation. But so right on. So we'll touch on one more thing. Let me just get through the Emerald Harvest thing. Or the other thing, it doesn't matter. Let's say I'll just use General Organics. So General Organics, you're adding sugars. So what do you use with General Organics for sugars? Molasses, stuff like that. Well, in the Emerald Harvest, you're going to be using the Honeycomb. And so what that is that's going to be your sugars. It contains like cane sugar, palm sugar, agave nectar. And it doesn't matter, again, what nutrient line you're running. There's going to be a combination of 1, 2, or 3 of these things. And what that's going to do, excuse me, still dying off of that dab. What that's going to do is that's going to help your plant convert sugars into starch, which is a core component of the plant cell wall, and also it's going to help up the reproduction, and it's going to help feed your microbes, because hopefully you got some microbes in there and you got some living things in your soil helping stuff break down and become available. We already talked about that on episode 3, I believe, right?
Correct. Unless you're having a complete synthetic system, then you would have no microbes.
Right. Well, with Emerald, they use the Root Wizard, so that's their microbes. I'm not even going to go crazy on touching with what's in it. It's just Root Wizard is the Emerald's Harvest. Root Wizard is their microbial. Just like if it was Advanced Piranha Voodoo, same thing, in a different way. It's not necessarily the exact same thing, but same in the theory, that's the way they're using it for their formula. That's their microbial activity, their living organisms. It doesn't matter which one you use, they all have a combination of that.
Yeah, I think I meant sterile system, not synthetic system. If you would have no microbes. Because
I think you could run a synthetic system with no microbes, no problem. And as long as you didn't introduce a lot of bad bacteria and stuff, in my opinion, as long as you kept things pretty clean. But you're right about the sterile situation. Like if you were running RDWC or if you're running like a water base, we're basically
talking. Yeah. Sorry to dive deep on something else.
It's okay, no, because a lot of the people that might be listening, they could be running like a bubble buckets and stuff like that. So make sure that you go to your local grow shop and see that your nutrients are compatible with your style of growing that you've picked out too. Because some of the hydro nutrients are different than the soil nutrients and stuff like that. You don't want to put the wrong thing in the wrong one.
Correctamundo. So anyway, I like nutrients because plants are going to need them. And I like growing things. So let's talk about that.
You're just sitting over there like chilling out, dabbed out, hanging out.
Watching the old pup, making sure she's not getting into trouble.
Your eyes are barely open, bro.
Hey, CJ Stone.
Right on. So, I guess that's pretty much all of the Emerald Harvest. They have a silica additive called Sturdy Stock, and here's a tip that, if you run it like they say, you run the silica and the CalMag in the water feed. I run CalMag pretty much all the time, just at a really low dosage. I do know that Emerald Harvest has a high calcium magnesium in their nutrient already, so most people don't need to run that. But if you're going to be adding the Sturdy Stock, you're going to add that in before you pH. And that's because when you add that in, it'll adjust your pH in your water. So then you may need to adjust it after that with the pH down or up. Does that make sense?
Makes total sense.
And that happens with most all silica additives. It doesn't matter what you're using. I personally use OSA 28. Shout out to OSA 28 and the boys. So my heavy D homie.
Silica make your plants like tree trunks.
If you guys don't know what OSA 28 is, you better get on the game.
Ooh.
Seriously. I don't care if you're a newbie or not. Check it out. Silica, that stuff, it rocks.
Oh yeah, silica.
Yep. Your plants need it and they love it.
Beef them.
So, next thing. We got through the nutrients. Let's talk about different ways to feed the nutrients. Why don't you break it down a couple of different ways there are for us, CJ?
Well, you can hand feed, top feed, drippers, automators, floraflexers, optifloraflyers.
What Floraflex? Tell me a little bit about that.
The floraflexerizers. All right.
Let's hear the Floraflex on dabs.
The old Floraflexers. They got the old flipper flip fillers in there, and they got the old double tubers that go into the flipper flappers, and they overflow the cranium, the main cranium.
Oh my gosh, this guy, dude! So grab that Floraflex off that plant over there. Oh man, this coffee is so good.
So the Floraflex are like a
it's like a top
feeding system for lazy people.
Lazy people, people that have lots of good vegetables or plants or whatever.
They have a bunch of shit and don't only have 2 hands to get to all.
You don't have to be lazy to have a floor feed, people. You just have to have a life.
It's hopping off at me, man. It's got a mind of its own.
Floraflex. Oh, here I am all talking about it. So yeah, there's top feed, there's hand feeding, there's drip emitters. You can run hoses. Some people in gardens be running long drip hoses. There's all kinds of ways to feed your plant.
And they're all going to need nutrients put through them.
All kinds of ways to feed your plant, man. You could get up every day and feed them at 5:30, smoke a joint, hand feed them, talk to them, play them some reggae, give them slaps. You know what I'm saying? That's what I do.
That's what they like, that cocoa. I'm going to have to feed it 16 times a day sometimes.
16 times a day?
A small-ass container.
Oh, you're talking about here pretty soon we're going to hook the homie up with those, let's jump into that. Little Alien Tech Strawberry Cough action. from the homie that we got cut of. I don't think anybody else got that.
Ooh.
Throwing that into some cocoa.
Cocoa it up, I guess.
You won't have to feed 16 times a day at all. You can put it in a big pot if you want. Put it in a 10-gallon.
I'm gonna put it in a 37-gallon play pool.
I would just take, that liner that's in the bottom of your tent, the silver one, just fill that shit full of cocoa, bruh.
Yep, so that's what I'm gonna do. Epsom salts and cocoa.
Epsom salts and cocoa. Oh, now we're
Secret
giving out
recipe.
bad ideas here. All right, so
kidding.
let's get back
Just
on track.
kidding, ladies and
Hand
gentlemen.
feeding, top feeding, drippers, automated, floor flex. Let's talk a little bit about floor flex. There's no floppers, flippers, flappers. There's no snappers. There's none of that. Let me explain that. So it's a top feed tray that goes on your plant, either grow down. You can shove that bitch in a pot with some cocoa. You could do whatever. It makes it easier for you to feed. It's almost like filling it up. They come in squares. They come in rounds. They have snap emitter drippers. They have different gallon per hour drippers. Pretty cool stuff. Google it. We're not going to go into deep about it, but there's a million ways to hand feed. There's a million ways to top feed. But the basic lines that we're trying to lay out here for you is figure out what you need to do, and whatever way you're going to feed, please make sure you do it on a regular basis. Don't forget to feed. That's the biggest thing everybody runs into. So the automated feeders is easier for a lot of people so that they don't forget. You know what I'm
I didn't
saying?
mean for lazy people. I apologize. Really, FloraFlex provide products. They damn well provide the best and most efficient ways to deliver water and nutrients to every plant, while empowering companies and individuals to grow anywhere at any time.
Here we go.
And that really gets to my heart. So I apologize.
Your heart, your heart of hearts.
Individuals can grow anywhere at any time.
That's fucking
Not
dope,
lazy,
though, for real.
'cause Sometimes you can't.
Right? Sometimes you can't do shit. So, figure out what you want to grow, how you want to feed, how often you want to feed. Pick that medium, pick that soil, pick that nutrient, figure it out. Get your ass on track here. We're already at episode 5. If you haven't figured this shit out, then something's wrong. Go back to 1, 2, 3, and 4 and re-listen. So we should be where we're at right now. What do you think?
I think when you go get your nutrients, you're gonna get a. When you go get
It's
your
the dabs. It's the dabs, bro.
when you go to pick out your nutrients, pick out an actual line. Don't just go in thinking you can get away with a bottle of A of Dr. Brown's synthetic A, and then go pick out Mr. Advanced B's
Yeah, let's talk about what not to do,
this,
man.
and think you can just follow the line. They're out there. They're in order for a reason. They have schedules for a reason.
RTFM, people. Read the fucking manual.
They make it simple, stupid for you. Don't try and think you can outsmart the companies that are making these things.
Exactly right. And the thing, let's talk about something not to do is, what you shouldn't be doing. Shouldn't be going to Walmart buying your newts. Shouldn't be going to Home Depot buying those newts. The shit that they got is made for mostly ornamentals.
It's going to
Maybe
be
they have
filled
some
with
specifics.
chemicals. You're not going to want that in your body.
Heavy metals, stuff that's going to stick around. There's PGRs. Let's talk about PGRs. Those are basically steroids for plants, progressive growth hormones, and or growth regulators. They're basically hormones or steroids for plants, in my opinion. They stick around in your plant for a long time.
They may make your plant look like the ultimate warrior, but they also might make you die early like the ultimate warrior. Ooh, too soon. Sorry.
Snap into a Slim Jim.
That's Macho Man Randy Savage.
Ooh, brother. Yeah, you don't want any of that. You don't want any of those veins showing early. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But yeah, I approach the natural thing. Try not to feed stuff to your plant you wouldn't feed to your kids. You know what I mean? And by that I mean pick good stuff. Spend a little extra money when it comes to your nutrients. You're going to see some overall better growth, better performance, faster turnaround, and bigger yields out there. Put some money into that portion of it if you do it anywhere, people. That and the light. That's what it's mainly about. Provide the light, provide the sugars and the nutrients that are needed to create and process photosynthesis to create yourself some big mama jambas.
Yeah, I definitely agree. If one place you don't want to skip out on is your lights and your nutrients. That's two big ones. You can get away with not having a tent, everything else in your bedroom, with a bunch of duct tape and some creativity, but you can't engineer good lighting and good nutrients in your kitchen.
Yep, for sure. You know, and I like to tell people too, make sure that the lighting for when you're growing your plant before you flower it is adequate as well, because it's whatever you build that plant up to be as a young child that they will turn out to be as an adult that creates fat nug juiciness for you. So that's what I like to preach. Keep your shit alive and healthy as a baby, and do any of the stuff that you want to do to the plant while it's in veg. So if you're going to stress that bitch out, you're doing it while it's in veg. Give it a good time through flower and let her show you what she's made of. You know what I'm saying? I think that pretty much covers the old, for the most part, nutrients. If you guys want to get too much more into it, make sure you stop at your local grow shop. Give those guys a question, because it's going to vary on what they have available. But I'm pretty much every grow shop has a little bit of a option for every style of feeding, nutrient style, 1 part, 2 part, 3 part, whatever you want. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know what I'm saying out there, bro?
Money.
Ooh, got that early morning nods.
Morning nods. Rosin dab. Early morning nods.
Speaking of rosin dab,
Early
I
morning.
don't know, but I feel like I need another one. What do you think?
I'm always needing another one.
Yeah. What's going on out there, local out there? What have we had going on out there lately?
There's some dispensaries opening up, I think.
How was your week? What did you do this week?
What'd I do? Oh,
Anything special this week?
got my handler's card. I can officially handle cannabis. CJ Stone, motherfuckers can handle that shit.
Legal marijuana holder.
Legally.
Can you fondle marijuana
So I
legally?
can fondle it. Went down and took the test, and then I had to go down and give the state a bunch of fucking money, get my picture taken, and I got a fancy little card. And
Yeah.
now I can legally handle cannabis.
Yeah, in Alaska. So if you want to work at any kind of a cannabis establishment or retail cultivating and any way affiliated with cannabis, if the word cannabis slides across their mouth and the AMCO hears it, you better have that card.
Slap it in no face.
I want
bitches.
it. I want to see your card. Let me see you fondle my cannabis. So, but yeah, you got anything you want to do business, cannabis related, and be a job in it, you got to have one of those cards. I got one.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I do. You know I do.
Oh, shit. Eric Weed got his card.
Eric Weed been handling cannabis for years, illegally as fuck.
Damn it.
Apparently, I didn't know I was not supposed to handle it. Never had a card before they allowed the cards. You know what I'm saying?
I hear that.
I've been breaking nugs for years, son. So, anyway, yeah, you know, we got our card. If you're in Alaska, you better get down there and get that card if you want to get in this industry, get that job going. You know, a lot of money to be had up out there. So, you know, just touching on what we might be doing next week, or pretty soon. There's dispensaries are starting to open up out here. We're gonna do some remote podcasting.
Remote
Podcasting. So yeah, we're gonna be hitting up. What's the first one? What's our first stop? Apparently,
I hope so. That maybe we can hit the Green Jar. 'Cause
Green Jar.
They're nearby.
Yeah, for sure.
Drive very far.
They're not far from where I live at, but you know, depending on who you are.
Well,
where
if you're
you're
in
at.
Alaska, you have to drive regardless. But
They're in the Matsu Valley. I know there's some already places in Anchorage already open. We should hook them up, but I've been waiting until they get their feet wet a little bit more. But out here in the valley, it's a little easier for us to go remote and hit up some local places. There's been a lot of shit out here, so it's good to cover it. Anchorage, in my opinion, you know, hasn't necessarily had it easier, but we've had a little rougher out here in the valley. We've had a couple of hoops to jump through when it comes to legal cannabis. You know what I'm saying? So, right on. I think that's about it. We're gonna wrap it up.
Wrap it up.
About to ready to go
Episode
have a big fat dab.
Dab it up. Check out our Facebook.
You don't need another dab, bro.
Check out our Twitter. Check out.
You
our
need some
Instagram.
CBD to sober up.
Check out our YouTube. Check out our shit.
What he's saying is check out our social media out there, people. We're going to be all over the place. You're going to see us everywhere. These ugly mugs and that dog right there, she's going to be all over in your head and your face. You're going to hear it. You're going to need it, and you're going to want it. It's Eric Weed.
CJ Stone.
And we out. Peace.
Yo, it's the Grow Green Podcast. Roll another fat one, puffing on that first class green. Take another puff, hey, drift in that cloud. kitty datty, the cute Dalmatian. Grow green is so amazing. We do massive dabs, not talking about the dance move. Grow green, put your lighters on, my dude. Hash oil, and it's so great. Smoke cannabis every single day. We do massive dabs, not talking about the dance move. Grow green, put your lighters on, my dude. Hash oil, get that high grade. Smoke cannabis every single day, yo.